Hello and welcome to Newsmakers for this Tuesday, October 29, 2024. I'm Louie Butko. And last week, the city of Hamilton hosted the second annual HamOntYouth Summit, bringing together hundreds of students from 21 secondary schools across 3 boards to inform, engage, celebrate, and educate. Students took part in youth-led workshops on financial literacy. They engaged in model city hall sessions. There was a community services fair, musical performances, and much, much more. And they also recognized the first ever HamOntYouth of the Year, Salsa Sarhan, who I'm very pleased to have me with on the show today. And Salsa, I think you put together that video yourself?
I actually didn't. My fellow youth engager, Ashik, put that video together.
Shout out Ashik. But reliving that, it's been a week. Have you been brought down?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. The energy continues wherever you go. The Youth Summit lives within you until you're planning the next Youth Summit. Yeah. So the energy lives on.
Let's talk a little bit about what the summit comprised of. We mentioned it there, but you know, financial literacy, we can talk about that. But it really is just a celebration of Hamilton youth and trying to inspire them to get involved. No?
And bringing them together and then making sure that they're involved in workshops that can educate them. Because yes, the institutions in school that we have present give you the education that you need, but now how can you further get involved with your community? How can you be engaged? How can you be a resident, constituent, and you know municipal politics, you know how to get involved, you know who your local counselor is. So you mentioned that Model City Hall was one of the workshops that we had, and that is an amazing group that we have that connects with us every single year, and they make sure that their workshops are organized so folks are engaged in their community in a more civic way. And then we have the fun literacy ones where they're run by RBC, they're run by Electra. So not only are you learning how you can be a student, how you can be a resident, how you can get involved, how you pay your taxes. So you just know what to do as a youth member, because we have a huge range of youth. That's from 14 to 29 that attend the Youth Summit. So you make sure there's something for everyone.
I was just going to say that, I mean, that age group specifically, because you want to get them, you know, late elementary school, early high school. You want to get them engaged, and you want to keep them engaged, because it's one thing to do. It's one thing to do student council. It's one thing to do interact and all these services, you know, clubs that you can be a part of. But to do it in high school and then continue it beyond high school, why was that important? So that you made sure that, okay, once you graduate, it's not, okay, you're done, we're on to the next thing. Why was it important to continue not just through college, but young adulthood up to 29?
Well, once you're no longer affiliated with a school, elementary school, high school, university, it's kind of hard to connect with local clubs. It's more accessible when you have everything right in front of you in school. You have a Club Fest day where they tell you these are all the clubs that you can join. So pick something that's going to fit your demographic of what you like to do. But when it comes to HamOntYouth, anyone from all of Hamilton can join if you're within that age demographic. I always tell people it's like a student council for the city. Anyone can join it. So it's great. It's a hub for all of us to join, and then you can connect further with the city. I was
just about to ask. So this HamOntYouth, this is obviously the city puts on this summit, brings a lot of you together. The work that that the organization does, HamOntYouth. What kind of interaction is there with the city? Like how does the city listen to you? Are there meetings? What are they listening, and how are they listening?
Well, it's great that we have city staff members that are connected with those meetings. So we have HamOntYouth like steering committee meetings. So they're different. We have social media ones. We have generic youth steering committee meetings, and sometimes we have presentations from city staff. So yes, we have the 2 city staff members. So Jesse, Daniel, Aaron Gates. They're the ones that are always present and supporting us during those meetings, and they're always student-led. We always make sure you're co-facilitating with a youth member. It's not just the city staff there. But when we have presentations, we have folks from different departments letting you know, recreation, public health, maybe if they want us to shoot a video, we're going to be there. The engagers are there to get that content for them. But there's always a way for them to connect with us, get our voice, and see how we can further engage with them and how we can help them. It's like, you pat my back, I pat yours.
Well, okay, so the one thing about youth is specifically, we always find this, and we find the trends in voting are going down. You know, record low turnout in municipal elections, provincial elections, and a lot of that comes from apathy, and a lot of that apathy comes from young voters. Why do you feel like people at this point, 14 to 29, aren't making their voices heard loud enough? Because that is a huge, even just the voting demographic of 18 to 29, that's a huge demographic. Why do you feel like sometimes their voice isn't heard?
It's just a lack of knowing. Sometimes that individual may not feel confident enough to make that choice. So like, I don't know what the party is actually voting on, what their platform is. So making sure that we have the steps in place and we have Model City Hall to give that information to youth, get connected with your municipality, how you can connect with your local counselor. Because again, that lack of knowing, it's not anyone's anyone's fault, but then making sure we have those resources present so then they can further connect and make that choice and be able to vote comfortably.
And they can make a difference too.
Of course,
I guess that's the other part, is that like a lot of people, and even early 30s over here, will talk. Thanks, Salsa, appreciate that. But we'll talk and be like, well, my vote doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter.
That's something you don't want to hear.
No. How do you fight that?
You tell them your vote does matter, and then you show them how they can make a change. Do you see how young our MPP is, Sarah Jama? Do you see how young she is? The student trustees, how young they are? I was just involved with the mayor's office for the past 12 months. I'm 24 years old. So that's an experience like no other. So it truly does make a difference. Don't be scared. I know everyone has like an identity crisis when they hit a certain age. I've graduated. What do I do next? Get involved with your community. Connect with your local counselor. Ask those questions. Go to the town hall meetings. They're there for a reason. They want to connect with their constituents. We live in the city of Hamilton. We are their constituents. So connect with them. Ask those questions. It's okay if you don't know.
You have a love for Hamilton. Tell us a little bit about your
love Hamilton.
Roots in this city, your path to where you are, and why you feel like you didn't need to leave, that you wanted to stay here and make a difference.
Oh, I love this place. Okay, so I was born and raised here, and then I went to Queen Victoria Elementary School, went to Sir John A., my beloved Sir John A. McDonald, and I was telling you earlier, I was so introverted in elementary school, and then grade 9 hit, and I was like, okay, I have a clean slate, I'm gonna make a change, let me get involved as much as I can. Nobody knows who I am, so I can put on a different persona here. So then I was getting involved as much as I could with student council, basketball team, creating and founding all these clubs, and then that continued throughout McMaster. I was gonna leave, honestly, to go to U of T, and then my beautiful immigrant parents who are Egyptian, they're like, you're staying with us and saving money. I was like, okay, now I'm staying, and I thank God every single day I didn't make that move to Toronto and I stayed in Hamilton, because all the opportunities that I had at McMaster, I am so thankful for them. So I did 5 years there, McMaster political science and labor studies with a minor in poli-sci, and then I just kept getting connected with all the extracurriculars on campus, but then it kept throwing me back to Hamilton, how we can further connect with the city, because folks were scared to leave the campus, and especially with the narrative that downtown is becoming more and more dangerous. I wanted to reassure people, I live downtown. I've been downtown since 2008, and I love the city. And yes, it can be rough at some times, but there's always a bright gem about Hamilton, and it's the people like me, the people like Jesse and Aaron that make a difference in their community, because everyone that's in Hamilton wants to be in Hamilton for a reason.
You kind of skipped over the fact you were valedictorian of your graduating class of Faculty of Social Sciences, with that double major and a minor, of course. Again, back to just caring about this city. There's a lot of apathy. You mentioned downtown. There's a lot of apathy, and sometimes that apathy can turn negative. How do we fight that, especially with youth? Like, how do we fight that? It's not my problem. Like, an encampment that sucks, but it's not my problem. Like, it can become easy for people. How do you fight that?
You have to redirect the conversation. You have to let them know that the city of Hamilton is working on things. There's projects in place. There's staff behind the scenes that are working diligently to make sure encampments are getting taken care of. Like, every single email that you send to Unsheltered or the City Housing Hamilton email, that's a human being behind that email. Because I used to run the mayor's general inbox, and I'm like, that's a human being taking all that information. And I always had to remind them, yes, this is a concern right now. I live in Hamilton. I see those concerns, and I know it's dangerous. But redirect and let them know that there's positives and there's something good coming out of it. And people are working diligently to make sure that change is coming, and that the right people will be in the right places and take care of our unhoused individuals.
How do you fight the negativity? How do you, because it can be done, like even in this job here, like reporting the news, it can be sad sometimes. It can be depressing. Like
100%.
And getting these emails, and when people are passionate, they're often angrier when they're passionate. That's usually where their passion takes them. And you mentioned being on the receiving end of emails, and a lot of people just copy and paste an email that they find and don't really think of the person behind it. I can imagine that can sometimes get tough for you personally, a cheery person like yourself. I've been able to read. How do you deal with it?
It's self-care. You have to not take it personally. Of course, like, separate the professional and the personal. Yes, there's a human being behind that email, but at the end of the day, that email address is not my life. So I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and my soul and surrounding myself with positive people. So shout out to the Spinco Hamilton community, because I love being in that space. And they are just the bread and butter of Hamilton. They make you feel so uplifted.
Speaking of Spinco, Simone Lawrence stopped by this week.
Yes, so he was texting
he's a regular.
me.
He was texting you. Oh,
He was telling me that he he was going to come spin. He's like, so how often do you spin? I was like, oh, okay. I try and go 6 days a week. He's like, okay, I'm going to try and go once a week. So let me know what classes you go to.
Yeah.
So he was there yesterday.
Nice.
And everyone
he's
is so
all
welcoming.
over the town. He's Moto Yoga, I think.
He loves it.
He's,
and he's really close friends with Naz, the owner.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Because you were presented with the HamOntYouth Award from the Ticats, Ticats representative as well. What does it mean to you to be recognized? Of course, you're a big part of the organization itself. I'm not sure if you got a vote.
I did vote. I won't tell you who I voted for.
Don't tell me. But what did it mean to you to be recognized, especially with the inaugural award, and just the result of your hard work and what it meant for that recognition? You don't do it for the recognition, obviously, but what it meant to get.
Well, yeah, I always tell people I join that space and those people because I love being around positive folks that do want to invoke change in their community. Of course, it's great to have that recognition and get those pictures with people and get that certificate put in my case at home. And it means more to my parents than I feel like it means more to me because they immigrated here back in the 90s. So knowing that their daughter is doing all these things and checking all these boxes, like, it makes them feel warm that yes, they made the right decision and they raised me well.
They made the right decision. A, coming to Canada. B, coming to Hamilton.
Heck yeah.
Especially immigrant parents, how is their perspective about this city changed? Maybe with you getting more involved, or what have you seen from them, and how, to come from Egypt and to be able to set up roots here and to be able to call this place home, what it means to them to get to see you do this?
They've definitely become more comfortable with testing out the waters and exploring different areas of Hamilton. Like, my dad is an electrician. He only ever goes to his sites and that's it. And then he comes back home. And then my mom's a stay-at-home mom, used to be an engineer. But again, she's only ever going to the grocery store, to the market. And I'm like, guys, there's an event going on in this street. Guys, there's a town hall in this. Like, let's go to this event. Let's go to Supercrawl. They didn't know what Supercrawl was. I'm like, I have been working at Mulberry for 4 years and you don't know what a Supercrawl is? So it's just, they got more interested in the city and more invested.
Speaking of invested, again, we keep going back to youth and youth getting involved. 'Cause I truly, truly believe people from 18 to 35 really don't know the difference that they can make provincially, federally, locally. How can we get these people involved? How can we get these people who don't want to come to the HamOntYouth Summit for whatever reason, right? They're not outgoing.
Yeah, of course.
They don't want to be. How can we reach those people, and what should our messaging be to them?
Well, first of all, come to the HamOntYouth Steering Committee meetings, not necessarily the summit. And I feel like every type of leader is welcomed in that space. You don't necessarily have to be the loudest person in the room. We have quiet leaders too. They're doing the behind the scenes work. They get featured. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the world. So we always tell people every type of leader is welcome. Get involved. Follow our Instagram. Even if you don't want to necessarily come to the meetings, you can go. We have the beach cleanup. If that's more so your thing and you're more of a climate change oriented student, maybe start joining Green Venture and seeing those local clubs. Our HamOntYouth Instagram is a hub for every single organization to let us know if there's an event going on, if we want to post a graphic from them. So you will find something that intrigues you. So follow our Instagram, HamOntYouth, and just connect with us. Ask those questions.
Because I think that's people have little issues. People get annoyed by little things. And then when it comes to time to getting to the ballot box, they kind of shrug and be like, oh, that was today? That was today? Because messaging is tough too, right? Here we are on a podcast, which is the relatively newest part of this 70-year-old establishment that is CHCH right there, 70 years, right? And it is reaching young people. And again, I say this is my early 30s. Like, I'm not that old.
Early.
Thanks, Salsa, again for that. But I say that as somebody who, it is hard. Like, do you feel like youth get a bad rep? Like, is it they're too attached to their phones? Like, I mean, it's something I've been hearing. This generation before me heard it. Like, do you find there's more apathy among youth these days?
Well, it depends. Why are they attached to their phones? Are they a social media manager and they're making money off their phones? Like, how about we flip the script? Why don't we ask them why they're on their phones instead of assuming that they're watching TikToks and brain rotting on Instagram? They could be doing something very beneficial. They could be emailing someone. Like, not everyone can afford to have a laptop, so their only piece of technology is a phone. So let's change that script.
All right. I appreciate that. You mentioned HamOntYouth. Where can people else find more information either about you or about what your organization does?
where I can find more info?
Yeah.
Oh, at HamOntYouth.
HamOntYouth.
It's our Instagram tag.
Well,
at HamOntYouth.
I got specific notes here about how integral you've been to growing that. So I guess plugs like that are important.
Well, 100%. And also when we were a youth engager, so I was a youth engager 2 teams ago. So the youth navigator, she has seasons. So we were the season 2 of youth engagers.
Okay.
So it was me and Ashik. So when we were the youth engagers, we were out and about libraries, rec centers, you're out in events. We were the winter session, so we didn't get a lot of action in the summertime, like a lot of the other engagers where you can go to Festival of Friends and Gage Park.
Okay.
But we were making sure if we were at the table and we saw someone that looked like they could possibly join the Youth Steering Committee, follow us on Instagram or connect with their parents. Follow us on Instagram. Ask those questions. Email us. And then Aaron would also be there handing out their cards. So just that one connection, you never know what's going to happen. And we actually recruited a lot of members from just being at Turner Park, engaging with parents.
No way.
One of the nominees for the Youth of the Year award was someone we recruited through her mom.
No way.
Yeah.
Through parents. That's
right?
awesome. Yeah. What's next for you?
Next for me?
Where do you see yourself? You mentioned you're 24.
Yeah.
You're very well spoken. You got a great presence. Like, is politics something? Like, is it an interest?
I don't know. People always used to make a joke when I was younger and I was steering council president. They're like, "Oh, she's going to be the mayor of the city." Well, I don't know. Maybe in the next 2 decades we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Ward councilor, who knows? But right now I'm very content with connecting with HamOntYouth, working with them, representing them in the best way that I can, and then any other community organizations that I'm a part of.
Well, when we're celebrating the 90th year of CHCH, maybe we'll have Maybe we'll have Mayor Salsa back here on the show, and we can replay this clip. We'll replay this clip.
That'd be
We're going to
awesome.
archive this. Salsa, really nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, my thanks to Salsa Sarhan for coming in today. My thanks to you as well, because we could not do the show without your support. Hey, while you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including Bubba O'Neill's Sportsline podcast. I want to thank Mike Corsten for directing today's show. And one more time, thank you for joining us from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.